What's going on, guys? We are back again with another episode of Party Viking Talks. Of course, with me this week is the big man himself, Big Fitz, 100% American-made Uncle Sam beef. I really don't know what else to say, so I'm just going to jump right into it because that's how we roll here.
When it's time to party, we will party.
Fitzy, baby, what's going on?
What's going on, man?
Oh, not a whole lot. Sorry, I forgot to unmute your audio. Whoops!
Oh, that happens.
Every episode, it happens. Every single episode.
It's probably more interesting that way. Just keep me on mute. Everybody can guess what I'm saying.
Yeah, man. If we have any lip readers in the chat, now's your time to shine. Let's get some of that quality cable closed captioning going on.
I'm just using my potato camera. I don't have a cool zoom like you, so I'll have to do this for dramatic effect.
You don't get the dramatic zoom. Dude, the dramatic zoom's been my favorite thing about this new camera, honestly. So, Fitz, the way I like to start out all of my shows is I just want to get a brief background, like what got you into wrestling? What was it about the wrestling business that really drew you in enough for you to go, I want to do that dumb shit?
Vanity. Vanity. Yeah.
Fair.
Vanity and getting tricked by Presley Miller and Stephen Kirby.
What lies did they tell you? Was it the bitches and money?
No, not exactly. So, I think I've told you this before, but like I didn't know that indie wrestling was a thing up until a few years ago, right?
Uh-huh.
And I was trying to make some friends at the church that I go to because I was still pretty new to it at the time. And Presley and this dude Juke, who owns a barbershop in Grapevine, that's awesome, that I'm not remembering the name of right now, which is unfortunate because I wanted to plug him. But they were talking about how they went to SmackDown, and I try to kind of insert myself into the conversation because I need to make friends. I'm kind of antisocial.
Yeah, you antisocial? No.
Yeah. So I start talking to him and stuff, and then Presley had reached out to me later, like, "Hey man, you want to go see wrestling on Saturday?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't know if I can afford those tickets right now, man." He was like, "Well, it's like $10. What the hell's going on here, right?" So I was like, "Yeah, where's it at?" Like at the, figuring it was going to be one of these stadiums. He's like, "Yeah, it's in a little strip mall in Bedford."
Well, so you never saw MPX in the old building back in the Metroflex?
Nah, dude, never did. My first. It was a couple of years ago now, obviously, but I went in there. I don't remember much about what was going on that night. Brent was still the champion. And I remember seeing a really good tag match with Silver and Gregory James against somebody. That's where like Brooklyn became a huge Silver fan. Of course. So I went and watched, and I brought Brooklyn because like Amanda had a photo shoot or something. She was busy that night, so I had to bring the kid, and I was like, whatever, I'll bring her Switch or whatever, and she'll just play video games because she's not gonna like this, and she loved it.
Oh, she just hooked immediately.
Oh, immediately, man. And that was when DTF was still kind of heel. So like they were out there, and she was talking crap to Brent, and he was yelling at her, and then Mike Fox was there. And she was yelling at him, and she just got so into it. She figured out real quick kind of the nature of what was going on.
Yeah.
But like any good wrestling fan, man, she just played along anyway. She and that's what I love about the kids. That even the ones that know, they play along. They don't try to sit there and act like marks. They just enjoy it for what it is.
That to me is the best. I love when fans that are smart enough to know the nature of the business, but still react like it's real to them. I love a crowd reaction fuels most of us. That's fair to say.
Absolutely.
And so having a crowd that's very interactive and having a crowd that's very loud and expressive towards their favorites and their least favorites and stuff like that it's just a fantastic feeling to have a crowd that's just like there and cheering and booing and screw you and you're fat and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Those are just some of the things I've heard.
Jamie Aller used to put me over with my daughter, like he'd come up to talk crap, and then when I'd like give him a mean look or stand up, he'd like run away, So it was cool because he made me look like a hero in front of my kid, like any good heel.
Oh, of course.
So we were going there for a while, and they had one of those, $50 come and get in the ring and try some things out.
Yeah.
So I went to one of those with like no intention of actually getting involved in wrestling. I just thought it'd be cool to get into a ring and act like I was a tough guy. And it was funny too because I go there and like Kirby I think hadn't cut his hair yet, and I was like, wow, this guy owns the place, crazy. And we were hanging out, and I said, yeah, I'm really not interested in actually doing this. I just kind of wanted to come and have a good time with my buddy Presley. And so we're doing some blow up drill, and I remember Livy was there, and she was like screaming, "Come on, how much do you want this?" And I was like, "Well, I'm only here for tonight, so not." And I
Like,
took all the steam
if I'm being
right
honest
out
with
of
you,
her.
really not that much.
Yeah, not really actually. I don't want this. But after that, man, Kirby would like occasionally mention things like, "Hey, man, so when are you gonna come train?" And I'm like, I work nights, I can't, and I'm old, and I'm like a dad, I can't wrestle, and. But Brooklyn and I kept coming every week. We had our seats at the living room every single week. We would always try to buy before Lugo so we could have like the time slot. And then I rented the place out for her birthday, and this is where Kirby bamboozled me. He called me up or messaged me or something at one point, and he was like, "Hey man, we were thinking it'd be cool if like we come out, because he was a heel then. And he's like, me and the Impact players come out and we try to ruin your daughter's birthday and you save the day, right?" And like, what dad is going to say no to that?
Of course, because
So
you're Superman to your daughter, so you gotta.
Oh, exactly. So he's like, "All right, come on Wednesday to training, and I'll show you a thing or two, and teach you how to throw a body slam, and we'll work something out." I'm like, great, okay, cool. And that's you can see the machinations that were working in his mind at this point. He knows as soon as I get in there in front of a crowd, he knew I was a musician, and so obviously there's like,
you hadn't realized yet that you had been had.
yeah. So the birthday happens. All of her favorite wrestlers were there. Like Buddy System had a really fun match. Buddy System with a room full of kids, right?
Oh yeah.
You can't get any better than that. And then in the match before the final one, which was a title match between Silver, which was Brooklyn's favorite wrestler, and Kirby. The match before that was Brent and somebody else who I'm forgetting, and they squished Carl, right? So Carl's injured, he's out.
Poor Carl.
And so Kirby comes out, and he's like, "All right, well, we don't have a referee. Referee's injured, so birthday's over. Get out of my building." And all the kids start booing and yelling. He's like, "Sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. Get out of here." And Carl comes out. He's like, "Well, Brooklyn's dad can be the ref." And Kirby's like, "Well, he doesn't know the rules." And he's like, "Well, fine, then it's a no DQ match. Then all he has to do is count to 3. So I'm the guest referee." And I sucked at it, dude. Like I almost ruined the match several times because I'd get down there and I'd count way too fast. Like Silver almost lost because of me.
How embarrassing would it be to lose your title at a birthday party because the ref didn't know what the hell was going on?
Yeah. So they start going at it with chairs and stuff, and it's getting pretty crazy. And at one point, Kirby pins Silver, and I counted to 2, and Silver kicks out. Kirby gets up, he shoves me. I shove him back. Of course, he takes a huge back bump.
Oh yeah, the old Triple H spot.
Yep. And then Ryan and Tommy rush in, and they start beating on me, and I toss them out of the ring. And Tommy being Tommy, man, as soon as I put hands on him and turned around and pushed a little, he went flying. Dave Sagan comes in, threw him out. Kirby comes over, he throws a punch. I block it poorly, by the way. Pick him up, big body slam. Brooklyn's favorite faction at the time was DTF, right? So I had this really nice, like, aviation themed Hawaiian shirt, and in the heat of the moment, man, I just tore that thing off. Underneath is the DTF shirt. After I just body slammed Kirby, Silver comes off 450 off the top, and so we're standing there in the center of the ring. Brooklyn ends up counting the pin. I've got my arms above my head. I got a room like 50 kids plus their parents and families screaming their head off for me. And I was like, "Here, we'll do this now." Oh, I gotta do this.
That's the webcam version of dramatic zoom is what that was.
Yep. So right after that, man, I switched jobs. I went to Oracle, and I was on leave in between jobs. So I started training, and then like 3 months into my training, I went to 2 months into my training, I went to Seattle for 3 months for work. And I kept training up there with the guys from Some of the guys that work at Defy and the guys from 321 Battle.
Yeah, I think they were the ones that came down a few months back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, that was Steve West. He's the guy that used to own that place. And then, I trained up there, came back, and then by Time Warp, which was like 7 months later, was when I had my first match. That was when Kirby and I did the Hogan Bossman thing.
Oh yeah.
And I was hooked, man. Just it scratches the same itch as playing music. You get out there in front of a crowd when you're playing guitar. You do something stupid, just hit an A and hold it and make faces. And
Yep.
people lose their minds,
That was one of my favorite parts. So I used to play music as well, and I would always my other bandmates would think it was weird because I would always carry either 2 cups or 2 bottles of water up on stage with me, but I would only ever drink one. And that's because within the last 2 to 3 songs of our set, I would take the other one and just douse myself. Because at the time I had hair down between my shoulder blades, really long hair, so I'd get my hair really wet. So when I was headbanging for the last few songs, I was slinging water everywhere on everybody, on everything around me, and people were just like, yes! And I'm like, it's mostly water, so there's at least 30% sweat because I had this light box that I built out of 2,000 watt shop lights. Just putting off just radiating this massive amount of heat onto my face. And so we had one song that got real slow, and for dramatic effect, one time I fucking got down and put my face on it, and I was like, oh my god, this is hot, but I'm here, so I can't react.
Where's the skin cancer,
yeah,
right?
I was like, oh, stay here, I'm gonna stay here, I'm gonna stay here, I'm gonna stay here. Okay, the song's picking back up, I can get back up now. Cool.
So yeah, that's how I got into wrestling, man. Just got bamboozled into it, and then was suckered in with the allure of a crowd, thinking I'm a hero.
Oh, that's usually how it happens. Mine was me watching idiots, wrestle in a bar in Waco, and I was like, huh, I'd like to be one of those idiots. So moving away from wrestling, I know for a fact that you're a big Final Fantasy fan.
Yes.
Huge fan of the old Final Fantasy game. How did you start? What was it about Final Fantasy? What was it about the earlier games? Because I believe you started on 4, if I'm correct.
Actually, I started on the first one. I didn't get real into it until 4.
Okay. What was it about the games? When you first saw them or first saw them played somewhere, what was it about those games that really made you want to invest that amount of time in a video game? Because Final Fantasy games are not short by any means.
Really not. Even the older ones were at the time, with the way video games were at the time, they would get bad reviews for being too long, because that was a thing.
Yeah. Back then it was if your game's more than 4 hours long, fuck this.
Mm-hmm. So I remember I was really into anything medieval or high fantasy. I was really into that stuff. I had all the Lego characters from that era, and I would build these huge battles, and I got Dragon Warrior from a friend, and that was a good game for its time, but it was real simplistic, and the narrative and the story was kind of an afterthought almost, it felt like.
Yeah.
And then I had this lady that lived next door to us. I was friends with her grandkids, and she was a big gamer. This old lady would play the hell out of some Nintendo, She's
amazing.
The one that introduced me to Zelda. She's the one that introduced me to, and then she had Final Fantasy, and on the front of it, it's got a sword. It's probably pretty cool. I used to.
You're right.
Yeah, she'd let me go over there and borrow games from her and stuff, and which was good because I was poor and we didn't have a lot. So I borrowed Final Fantasy once, and then I don't remember how long it was. Must have been weeks later. She comes knocking at the door are you ever going to give me my game back?
No.
And so just to get more time with it, I lied to her and told her I lost it. And then later, after I finished it, I found it, right? And,
I can neither confirm nor deny that I've ever done the same.
Yeah.
For legal reasons, I've never done that.
And we got a Super Nintendo, right? Which at the time was it was mind-blowing how good everything looked.
Oh, yeah.
And my stepdad brought home Final Fantasy 2. Ostensibly for me, but then the asshole never let me play it because he was all playing.
It became his game.
Yeah. And then he got in trouble, and my mom kicked his ass out, And so I was like, sweet, finally, I get to play the game. And
Like, yeah, mom's going through a divorce, but more importantly, I finally get to fucking play Final Fantasy.
Right? so I'm
Priorities.
sitting there playing Final Fantasy in that opening scene where, you know, you're in the airship and the Red Wing formation is flying towards Cydia, you know, and you know, it really like you're dealing with like moral quandaries and stuff. You know, you're dealing with like your character has just committed some atrocities on behalf of his kingdom.
Yeah.
And you know, the narrative, and like nobody had really, at least in my experience at the time, nobody was telling stories like that through video games. And so I was huge into that game, played it so much that by the time I was a completionist even then. By the time I made it to the final boss, which I think you need to be in the level 50 to 60 range to have a good shot at it, all my characters were level 99. I face rolled the damn thing. Yeah, the whale, that airship that you could fly to the moon with, which was kind of weird now that I think about it. But I played the hell out of that game, and then 3 came out, which was 6, but in the US it was released as 3. Oh my god, this guy.
Thank you for the
This dude in
follow.
the chat.
What is it's Mr. DS Fitzer himself. What?
Oh my god. So this guy, his name is Tyler as well, Tyler Inhofe, and he was one of my recruits when I was a basic training drill sergeant. This guy, let me tell you a story about this son of a bitch.
Oh, see, this is what I really wanted. I wanted the military stories surrounded by Final Fantasy stories. That's.
Oh, I was a huge geek, and he was one of the few people that actually knew it, because he started talking about World of Warcraft once, like right in the height of my addiction to it. And I walked up to him. Oh, I wish I had my hat. It's out in the garage. I walked up to him, you know, big scary drill sergeant hat. And I was like, "You play World of Warcraft?" And he's like, "Yes, drill sergeant." Like, what class? I don't remember what he said, but it wasn't a hunter. And so I made him do push-ups because he didn't play a hunter.
You're not a hunter? Beat your face.
This dude, so he's one of them kids who, like, you want to hate him, you really do, because he's a smartass.
But you just can't.
But you can't bring yourself to. I don't remember what we were doing at the time, but, you know, one of the rules in basic training is you never go anywhere without somebody. You never go anywhere by yourself. You always got your battle buddy with you.
Oh, yeah.
And this dude, he's walking across the company area, just bebopping along, you know, by himself. And I look at him, and I'm like, "Inhofe, where the fuck is your battle buddy?" And he looks right at me without missing a beat. He's like, "Jesus is my battle buddy, Trump."
He said he was definitely a mage.
Yeah, that figures. He loves wearing frilly, sparkly robes. So yeah, Jesus is my battle buddy, drill sergeant. Of course, I'm sitting there screaming at him and making him do push-ups, trying to act tough, but I'm laughing. I'm trying not to laugh. Right? It's just hilarious. And the drill sergeant, who was like the senior drill sergeant on our platoon, Drill Sergeant Sweden, she was a real asshole, like just fucking garbage. I didn't get along with her at all, and she hated him, absolutely hated him, and so that just made me like the kid more. I would be entertained when he would be fucking around and pissing off Drill Sergeant Sweden.
Man, does that sound like anybody we know?
There's that zoom.
Yo, the dramatic. I'm telling you, dude, the dramatic zoom is well worth the exorbitant price I paid for this camera.
Absolutely. This kid was one of my recruits, dude, and here's how old I am. He is now a staff sergeant, I believe, which was the rank I was when he was a brand new recruit.
Oh wow! So he's moved up and hasn't wisened up enough to not re-op.
Dude, I keep telling him to get out, but you know he's weird.
I have a buddy of mine who was like 3.5 years in. He had like 6 months left. He had just gotten back from Kuwait, and was like, once September comes, I'm out. I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm not re-upping. I'm not re-enlisting. I'm fucking leaving the military. We're gonna move back to Texas. Blah blah blah. Then like a month later, he's like, yeah. So I was like, you fucking didn't. He goes, yeah. You dumb motherfucker. I was like, what did they offer you? He goes, well, they said I could be stationed anywhere I wanted. I said, and where did you pick? He goes, Hawaii. That was a year ago. They were supposed to have left for Hawaii earlier this year, I believe.
Yeah.
But due to COVID, he's now stuck in fucking Kansas or Kentucky or one of them. He's stuck somewhere, and just he I think they finally are moving like next month.
Hawaii, man. I never got stationed there. I always wanted to. Italy, too. Vincenza, all the guys in 173rd that were in Italy. I had a dude that he only did one enlistment and got out. And then he got called back up when I did to go to Iraq because I got out and they forced me back in.
Oh,
Same
you
with
got
this dude.
stop lost?
Did, yeah. Well, it's IRR, the recall, right? And he said that the reason he got out was because Italy ruined him. Like, he did his first 3 years in Italy, and it was great, and he had an indoor range to qualify on and things like that. And then they sent his ass to Fort Campbell, and he was like, "This is garbage," and he got out.
Yo, Inhofe said Hawaii is dog shit for a station, and Kentucky is dog shit also. I'm from there. I'm sorry, you're like I think you might be the only person in my like viewership to ever be from Kentucky. I've had Ireland, Hawaii, Japan. Andy Milonakis, the former MTV comedian who had his own sketch comedy show, has watched my channel. But nobody from Kentucky has ever fucking watched this.
That's because they're busy doing meth, man.
Meth and fucking picking corn. Is that all there is to do there? Drugs and farm?
Pretty much. So Hawaii, he's right though. Hawaii is dog shit if you're an infantryman because if you're infantry in Hawaii, you're light, you're not mechanized, you're not airborne, you're not air assault, which means everywhere you go, you walk. And there's lots of mountains that they love to just climb up for no fucking good reason.
We don't claim it and meth.
Oh man.
But no,
Gosh.
like I mean I've talked to some people that were stationed in Hawaii, and it seemed most of them were pretty cool with it because they're in fucking Hawaii. But also at the same time they're like, yeah, dude, it's cool, but it also really sucks. Well, that's
The only person I know that's there now is a warrant officer, and they don't do any work, so he loves it.
So she might as well just be, Air Force.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my. I got back into the Army in like 2007, and after that, I was like, if they can call me back anyway, I may as well have some control over where I go. So I stayed in the reserves after that. Was a reserve drill sergeant for a while. Ended up doing a full-time year up there in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, with this son of a bitch, because I needed the health plan. Like at the time, I had just met Amanda. She got pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a health plan. So I called my sergeant major. Was like, "Hey, I need a year-long mobilization immediately.
Hey,
whatever I can do."
I appreciate the sub, man.
And then, that was when my life got so busy that World of Warcraft stopped, which is probably a good thing because that game sucked the life right out of you. But yeah, so Final Fantasy VI, man, that was my favorite. I've played some of the other ones. They all don't really measure up, in my opinion.
6 was actually 4, correct?
Yeah, it was released as 3 in the U.S.
Because
it was the one with Terra and the Espers. And
yeah, so the one released as Final Fantasy 1 here was actually Final Fantasy 4 in Japan, correct? Or do I have that backwards?
2. The one released as 2 here
2,
was
okay.
4 in
Okay.
And then, so 6 was great, not just because the graphics and the storyline and everything were a step up, but it had a villain, Kefka, who was like a lot of villains in these types of games. They have some sort of tragic backstory or some sort of awful thing that happened to him that pushed him into being evil. Like Kefka was just evil because he thought it was fucking fun. This dude just.
That's a good villain. I like that kind of villain, to where there's no like rationale or people trying to fucking relate to this character. Like, no, this dude's just a fucking dickhead.
Yep, this dude, he walking across the desert, getting ready to invade this castle. Walking across the desert, he stops to make his soldiers dust the sand off of his boots. I'm like, this is my guy.
This is some shit that I did.
This dude, and it was a great game. There was a lot of hidden stuff. Like if you had Shadow in your party and you stayed overnight at an inn, you had a small chance of seeing a dream sequence that explained some of his backstory.
Huh.
And in the days before the internet spoiling everything, it was really exciting to kind of figure out, oh crap, this is Realm's dad. This is a secret identity that he has.
See,
and so that game was just super great.
I don't recognize any of these names or characters. I didn't play anything before 7, and the only reason I played 7 was the 7 remake. So
you have to play 6. I will send you a ROM.
Okay.
and you got to play that one. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, if you send me a ROM for it, I'll check it out.
Now I'm really into stealth games. I love the Assassin's Creed games. I like the Sniper Elite and Sniper Ghost Warrior.
So I'm gonna stop you there because you said Assassin's Creed, and Assassin's Creed is one of my favorite game franchises of all time. Are you talking about old Assassin's Creed or new, like, fucking, like, combat-driven Assassin's Creed?
Man, it's rough because I like the new stuff just because of really the sheer technical impressiveness of what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the stories in like Origins and Odyssey were pretty good. But I gotta tell you, man, the more heavy like open combat focus, I don't dig it. Like I enjoyed, sneaking through bushes and stabbing people, and then well, oddly enough, like Black Flag was my favorite one. So you had some of that, but you also had pirate ship battles.
Yeah, to me, Black Flag was my. Yeah, I'll say Black Flag was my favorite. Because I played every Assassin's Creed up to Black Flag. I actually played Unity that came out after that. Whichever one that took place in like turn of the century England. That was the single worst Assassin's Creed game ever made.
Unity was in France. Talking about the French Revolution with.
That may have been it. That may have been it. I thought it was England, but it might have been France.
That game had a lot of problems at launch. They were really over ambitious with how they pushed this whole thing about we can have so many characters on screen, and it was a buggy nightmare.
See, I think
as a result,
the issue that came about that time was the fact that Assassin's Creed 2 was a beautiful game, and all of the two major expansions off of 2, Revelations and Brotherhood, were fantastic. Playing as Ezio in, what was it, Renaissance Italy, you had Leonardo da Vinci as your own personal inventor. Like it was such a fantastic game. And then 3, most people don't like the general consensus is that 3 was terrible, and I don't think 3 was terrible. I think it could have been better. But Black Flag gave us just this masterpiece of a game because it blended not only the Assassin's, like the on-land, the stealth mechanics and engines that we knew before from the previous games, but also gave this beautifully polished ship combat system that is unmatched in any other game. Like no other game I've ever played has had that well done of a ship battle mechanic, a naval battle mechanic. And I think that
great, man.
And then after that, I think with the popularity of with Black Flag, yes, Black Flag was the pirate one, Michael. But with the popularity of Black Flag, they started going, oh, we can just start pumping out these games and people will keep buying them. And I think that was the biggest issue with Unity and all the ones that came after that is they went along like the 2K and like sports games.
Yeah, yearly release.
Yeah, they had a yearly release, and that was the deal with Unity, where you would have cutscenes where faces just wouldn't render, so you would have floating eyeballs and teeth. And it was the most unnerving thing. You can find entire YouTube compilations of just Unity glitches.
Yeah, in Unity, you couldn't hide in bushes and whistle and lure people over, which kind of killed
What's
all
the
the
point?
missions where you had to be stealthy, and you could the missions where you would fail if they discovered you became just a nightmare without that ability. They brought that back in Syndicate, thank God.
Syndicate is the one I think I was thinking of.
I liked Syndicate.
Because Syndicate was
where you went after you went after Jack the Ripper in one of the expansions. That was cool.
Yeah. And that was neat, but it's at the same time it was kind of along the same lines where it was a quickly made game. It was a cash grab, for lack of a better term. It was them just trying to make as much money off of the name without actually putting out a good game.
They stopped doing yearly releases there for a bit, and they took another 2 years to bring Origins to the table. And
a lot of people have had issues with Origins and Odyssey just because playing Assassin's Creed before, playing 2, 3, and 4, playing Black Flag, and then switching over to Origins, it was a completely different combat system. You had completely different mechanics. You could switch your weapons. You could have the dual blades, or you could have a pike, or you could have a heavy club and stuff like that. And that I think that, I don't want to say it threw people off so much as it just made them a little uncomfortable and a little wary as to where the game was going. But Origins, to me, I loved Origins. I played through the entire game. I loved it. I loved the Egyptian aspect. I loved being able to climb and explore the pyramids and do all that. I loved that they had a Final Fantasy 15 crossover in that game.
Yeah, there was a hidden thing where you end up getting a sword out of the deal.
You get the engine blade, and you get a shield, and you could also get the Chocobo camel.
I'm about to lose my internet, dude.
Are you?
Fuck.
You got this. I believe in it.
DNS is completely not responding now.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if I lose you, I'll come right back.
All right.
But,
We'll keep going as if nothing happened. as
we're gonna try to fix this.
if you're not worried about it.
God damn it.
Michael asks, Fitz, are or were you a fan of the Batman Arkham series?
Dude, I have not actually played those yet, and everybody says that I should, and I haven't yet.
Are you a Batman fan at all?
Yes. And I'd like to play those eventually, but I haven't gotten around to it. And I got such a huge backlog of games.
So you can actually skip Origins and Asylum and just go into City and Night. They're much better games. They're much bigger, much more open world, and just a lot more fun to play. Great story with both of them as well. I'm not gonna. I want to talk about it, but I'm not gonna spoil that story for you, just in case you actually do play it.
I'll have to try and pick it up at some point. Yeah, I have no connectivity to the internet. I don't know how we're still on. Skype must be using SIP on the back end or something.
Maybe. So I heard Rocksteady's making they're making a Suicide Squad. I think I heard something about the Suicide Squad game, but I'm not 100%. I know that Rocksteady's Canadian office, there's a lot of rumors circling about the next game, because there was a tweet posted with a picture of them in front of the new Batman logo, and it's a very sharp winged Batman logo, and so there's huge rumors circling that the next Arkham game is actually going to be Batman Beyond, which
Nice.
I am hyped for, because I am a big Batman Beyond fan, and I think that would shake up that series enough to add a lot of nice new stuff to do, like a lot of new mechanics, being able to fly and use the different gadgets and stuff that the new Batsuit has, playing as Terry McGinnis, having Bruce Wayne as your Overwatch or your Oracle. I think it'd be a fantastic game, and I really hope that that's where they're going with it. So
favorite movie Batman. I want to hear your favorite movie Batman.
I don't like that you're doing this to me, because no matter who I say, I'm wrong. Like there's, wait, my favorite. Okay, favorite actor that's played Batman, or favorite Batman movie?
Favorite actor that's played Batman.
Oh, because I want to say Christian Bale, because I feel like Christian Bale did a really, really good job as Batman and as Bruce Wayne, but those movies are not my favorite of them. If I'm going by that, Clooney, George Clooney, would be my favorite movie Batman.
Bale is my second. I gotta go with Keaton.
Michael Keaton had a fantastic, especially with him and Jack Nicholson in what was the '89 Batman.
Yeah. Remind me to send you some pictures of me doing Nicholson Joker one year for Halloween.
Oh. Michael said he wants to say George Clooney with the bat nipples. The bat nipples made that movie. Actually, that wasn't even my favorite part of those movies. My favorite part of those movies was Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey as the Riddler is probably the perfect casting choice. Like, the best casting choice they could have possibly done was casting Jim Carrey at that time.
Yeah.
Now, I don't feel like he would be as... With the way that the DC movies and the DC universe is kind of going with their movies, I don't feel like he would be a serious enough character.
Yeah, it's too gritty now. He couldn't do it now.
Yeah, but back then, when it was still the Tim Burton Batman movies, when it was this crazy, wild, colorful, weird universe, he was perfect.
Yep.
I feel like somebody better could have been Two-Face, because I wasn't a big fan of Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face, but it was acceptable.
It wasn't terrible, and it fit with kind of the campy Batman at the time.
Yeah, it did.
But it could have been cast better.
I
Who
feel
would
like-
you put in as Riddler now in like the more gritty DC world?
In the more gritty DC world, I
almost feel like Riddler wouldn't work as a character in the new.
feel like he would, but it would have to be someone more like, instead of just he'd have to be a little bit more on the actual like unhinged, like someone that's just obsessed with trying to like create these puzzles and have people solve the puzzles instead of him just being wacky and wild and wearing bright colored spandex.
Yeah.
The new if I had to cast a new Riddler, I don't know that I could.
Don't feel bad because I can't think of anybody.
I cannot think of anyone, not a younger actor. I think, honestly, and don't hate me for saying this, Mark Hamill would play a really good Riddler. Because Mark Hamill has that look now where he's a little older and he's a little more like he could pull off that kind of like real life, you know, like he's a little crazy and just wants people to solve these riddles, and that's how he, you know, gets everything done. I think Mark Hamill would play a great Riddler. But the problem with that being is he is such an iconic Joker voice. He wouldn't be able to play the Riddler.
Yeah, and there's really no like, you know, maybe it would have worked before everybody was a super fan of everything. Like nowadays, people just can't watch movies. You know, they have to like get into knowing everything about them. And because there was a time when he was doing the Joker stuff, the voice work, that like people had no idea it was him.
Yeah.
You know.
That was throughout the entire 90s when he was the Joker on Batman the Animated Series. He was the Joker in literally every Batman anything up until like the mid 2000s. When he got replaced, he just wanted to stop doing it and move on to something else. He was the voice actor for Firelord Ozai in Avatar The Last Airbender, and he did a few other voices here and there, but pretty much every Joker that they've come out with since then, the voice actor has just been them trying to do their best Mark Hamill impersonation.
Emulate him, yep.
Go lay down. Sorry, my dog is...
I have no idea how I'm still connected to you right now. Everything else is dead. So if anybody's in the chat, sorry, can't see what the hell you're talking about.
Spitting a prayer. That's what we're working on, spitting a prayer. So...
Out here in the middle of Siberia with my internet comes from a fucking mast on the roof with a dish that points that way.
And it's not even like a satellite dish, it's just like a dinner plate.
Sight. It's like point-to-point wireless.
Jesus.
Directional antenna on the roof.
So going from Batman, are you more of a DC or a Marvel fan?
Man, you know, I don't know. I like them both. I don't approach super fan levels like some of these dudes.
I feel that.
I was on a thing with someone who shall not be named now, that where we talked some about, you know, comic books and DC and Marvel and stuff like that, and like this dude's just blowing me away with this knowledge. I don't nerd out about that stuff as much, so I like them both. I really enjoy the movies. I dug the Wonder Woman stuff.
Yeah.
It was really cool. You know, anytime there's a, you know, with having a daughter, anytime there's a female hero, you know, I'm down.
Go ahead.
And then I liked, I didn't think I was going to like the most recent Batman. What was the movie called? I'm blanking. Batman and everybody else.
Justice League?
Yeah, Justice League. I didn't think I was going to like it, but I did.
See, I got a lot of hate for liking that movie. Because everyone else was like, oh, it was terrible. Like, no, the movie, it wasn't terrible. The CGI was terrible. Especially the fact that they couldn't even pay Henry Cavill enough to shave his fucking mustache and had to CGI over it.
Dude.
But
people just can't enjoy movies anymore for what they are. It's kind of crazy.
That's my biggest issue is that everyone is a film critic now.
Yeah.
Everyone
if you're
goes
not
to a
super
movie.
Fan, you can't enjoy something.
Yeah, everyone goes to a movie and now they're like, oh, well, it would have been good if they would have done this, and this, and have a whole laundry sheet of like everything that they nitpicked that they didn't like is why it makes it, and that's what made it a bad movie. Like, no. I watched it. I was entertained by it. I liked the movie. I don't go to movies thinking like, oh, this is going to be some cinematic masterpiece with this, and this, and they're going to have interesting plot points and all this. I'm like, dude, if they make like 3 things blow up, I'm going to be fucking set.
You know who the worst are to watch movies with?
Who's that?
Military veterans. Military veterans. And here's why. Because you watch a movie with your average military dude, and the first time somebody shows up wearing a uniform, now it's time to fucking pick apart their tactics or show how cool you are. Because, oh, look, he's carrying an M16A1. They haven't been issued in forever, blah. Or they're not in a proper fire team wedge. You fucking nerd. This is a movie where fucking aliens are invading, or this is a movie where you've got a dude that's like catching a jumbo jet and keeping it from crashing, and you're really going to critique that their uniforms are wrong? You stupid bastard.
In what world do superheroes exist, but the military still can't fucking get it right?
Right, like, oh man, it's terrible. And watching movies with veterans, doing just about anything with veterans nowadays is just a pain in the ass.
I mean,
like,
I built
that person with cancer, that kid with cancer is such a hero, and then out of the bushes comes somebody, what about our veterans?
I built a computer with a veteran, and it wasn't that bad, so.
Yeah, well, I'm not the typical one, I guess.
True. You're a little less salty than most of them.
You can't enjoy movies nowadays. Sonic, man. I watch Sonic, and all these super fans are ripping apart various things about it. I thought it was great. I thought Carrie as Dr. Robotnik was fantastic.
Oh, that was I know he has like a lifetime supply of Advil for the back pain from carrying that movie on his shoulders. Yes. Carrie was fantastic as Robotnik. I loved him as Robotnik. The only issue I had with the movie was them using the rings to like teleport, and even then I was like, okay.
But it was an enjoyable movie, and I'm really glad that I have a kid, because it kind of forces me to just enjoy a movie like a kid would, you know?
Like, I enjoyed that movie so much that whenever when they showed fucking Tails at the end, I was like, what?
Yeah. Or when Robotnik's stranded and he's like, oh, it's Crazy Robotnik now.
Yeah, and he actually goes, Dr. Eggman instead of just Dr. Robotnik.
Oh.
Like, I loved it, because that was just Jim Carrey playing Jim Carrey with a mustache.
But adult super fans ruin so much of
they
various
do.
fandoms, you know?
It's because they'll never be pleased unless there's no pleasing them, because you could have something that's 100% exactly the same as the source material, and they're like, oh, well, if I wanted to see this story, I could have just read the comic books. But if you change one thing, they're like, that's not how it was in the comics! Like, it's so hard.
The worst were the My Little Pony fans, man, because I have a daughter, right? So, of course.
You got him with the bronies.
Well, I mean, my daughter watches the stuff, right? And by the way, this is why I have a robust filtering solution for the internet, because let me tell you what happens when a 5 or 6 year old gets on the computer and Googles My Little Pony.
Yeah, you get
I'm talking to you bronies right now.
Dramatic zoom.
You sick bastards, and the crap you put on it, grow the fuck up. It's a TV show for children. Yeah, fandoms ruin everything, man. It's terrible.
Hold on, let me... Stop jerking off to animated horse porn.
There's so much degenerate nonsense on the internet that is rooted in children's TV shows and children's, comic books and games and stuff that, like,
it's ridiculous.
You can't let your kids search for things anymore.
No, you pretty much have, like, I remember back in the day of like DSL internet and dial up, having to, listen to fucking dubstep before it was invented just to get on AOL. Like, you had to be like very specific with your searches to get anything degenerate. Like, you had to type in like specific things. Now it's like you type in sandbox and it's like, here's 3 pages worth of porn about sandboxes.
Yep. It's destructive, degenerate. Not like, I understand why old people, when I was younger, complained about the things they do, because you see how destructive that stuff is when you start getting older. It ruins relationships. It gives people like totally warped expectations of what a relationship should be like.
Yeah, like,
and then the stuff that your kids are exposed to, it's like, no wonder the world's so screwed up, you know?
Like your daughter searches My Little Pony and has to weed through like 3 pages of fucking Applejack and Twilight Sparkle getting fucking railed.
It's terrible, man. And
Also,
Yeah.
don't ask me why I know their names.
Dude, it's funny. I had a friend who, same age as me, but was a big My Little Pony fan. And
I had a few of those friends.
I had at one point my daughter. We're playing with her toys in the living room or something, and I didn't know any of these things' names. So I'm like texting my buddy, like, "Hey, what's the?" Because I don't want to look stupid in front of my kid.
That's Rainbow
so I'm
Dash.
I'm like, "What's the one with the rainbow?" Fur or whatever, mane or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, it's Rainbow Dash. And what about this one? Oh, that's Pinkie Pie. Okay, cool. I'm good now.
I'm glad you retained their names.
Man, look, I have a daughter. That's all I'm saying. And you know what? Actually, I enjoyed that show because it was a show that taught my kid a lot of good lessons. Phineas and Ferb too. She loved that. I don't know if you ever watched that.
No, I never did. I was never a Phineas and Ferb watcher.
Such a good show.
I was I was a Scooby Doo and like Rocket Power kid. I watched a lot of the old cartoons because, like, in the mid to late '90s, we didn't get new cartoons. We got replays of old cartoons.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so I'm watching. Gosh. So I'm watching like 2 hours a day of like old Looney Tunes and like Elmer Fudd shooting Bugs Bunny 14 times and him not dying and that kind of stuff. And now it's like they can't show that on TV. That's too violent. Like, dude, we used to get excited to come home and watch Dragon Ball Z every day and Gundam and Zoids and
all this degenerate stuff that they're fine with. But man, you have Fudd shooting Daffy in the face, and it's a problem. By the way, recently I showed my daughter Roadrunner Wile E. Coyote. Being able to experience that with my kid.
Oh, that has to be amazing.
Fantastic.
Sharing with her, because I imagine you grew up on those type of cartoons, right?
Oh yeah.
The Saturday morning cartoons, Looney Tunes, and stuff like that. Like that has to be an amazing moment, getting to like share that with her and just kind of like, hey, this is what I watched, and if she's entertained by it, then it's like, yes.
Yeah. Then I'm like, here, watch this episode of Thundercats, and she's like, this is
Thundercats. Ho! They tried rebooting that show. They tried actually making a Thundercats reboot, and it failed.
Was it terrible?
Miserably. No, it wasn't bad. I think it was just people weren't ready for a Thundercats reboot.
Michael in here is asking, why do I know their names? Because I've got
an
11-year-old.
He's wondering why I know their names.
Oh, yeah, that is weird.
Because I had friends that were bronies.
Oh, even that word brony makes me want to like punch somebody in the mouth.
Yeah, it's fucking weird, man. I get people are into whatever they're into, but I'm still gonna call it weird.
Yeah.
You can't be into shit like that without expecting some sort of like ridicule for it.
You turn lame when you become a father, man. Like I don't want to bring my kid to wrestling shows anymore unless they're CWF ones, because you never know what your kid's gonna be exposed to. And back in the day, I would have thought that was, oh, you're just being stupid, you're being lame, and you're whatever. But now, like when you have a kid, you really start thinking about what they're seeing and what kind of message it's sending.
Yeah, and especially now with like a lot of the stuff that's come out in the last few months, it's like, dude, who, like, I literally, I don't know who they can be around that's not a fucking pervert. Like,
yeah, I'm sure you had some of the same feelings as I did, like finding out
I was
all this stuff about people you thought were friends.
I was 100% disgusted by it. Like, it was so eye-opening and shocking. Like, I literally sat and I was talking to Dimitri about it, and he was like, dude, I kind of don't want to be in this anymore. Like, I kind of don't want to wrestle anymore because it's disheartening. And I was the same way where I was like, dude, like, I don't even really want to be around the business anymore because of this. Like, it's not just the people that were called out. It's the business as a whole, because now everyone looks like, oh shit, there are all these fucking pedos and perverts and assholes and sexual offenders and stuff in the business. They're probably all like that. And we're not all like that, but it's so hard to not have the entire reputation of the business diminished by something so big like that.
Yeah. Not only that, but like, the line between reality and fantasy starts to blur and stuff. And, like, you've got promotions that have, factions that make fun of date rape,
Yeah, and that's...
and you got to be careful what you expose your kid to. And like I was having a conversation with Hill a while back, and I said, everybody makes fun of these CWF guys because they have a really strict code of conduct, right? Like you post something on social media that's kind of off color, you'll hear about it from them. You'll hear about it if you're associated with them.
And that's why they've never booked me.
Right. And I was talking to because I actually had a conversation with the guy that runs the place a long time ago when I wrestled my last match there, and I posted something and he had a problem with it, and of course I'm sitting there, well, you can't. There's freedom of speech, all this stuff, and now I get it.
He has the freedom to not book you anymore. Like that's
yeah, exactly. None of their guys though, like what I was telling Hill, is like, hey, everybody makes fun of that, but none of their guys are trending on Twitter right now, man.
That's fair. That is true.
They keep it all really, really above board, and not because they're prudes. I know these guys; they're not, but because they know that they have an image and a reputation that's very important to what they do. Because for them, it's a ministry first, right?
Yeah,
it's not a wrestling promotion first.
Anytime you're trying to associate yourself or present yourself as a Christian product, which the Christian Wrestling Federation is. You can't have your champion the next day online posting like, fuck these people and fuck these people and fuck that guy and fuck this group of people like that, because then it's just like, oh well, these guys are just a bunch of hypocrites using the Christian, saying that they're Christian to get people to come watch. But
you've got that other promotion down in Waxahachie that tried to play that card. And, but it's a group of guys. These guys aren't perfect by any means. They're all a bunch of broken people like anybody else, but they try to be better. And dude, there's people that I don't interact with on social media anymore just because I don't want to expose myself to that trash. I don't want to expose myself to, if all you're posting is screaming about politics, I don't care. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
I want to. I want to see pictures of your dog. I want to see pictures of your cat.
Same.
I want to see pictures of your barbecue. And I want to see memes, dude. I don't care about what you think about a politician.
Yeah, I don't log on to Facebook and Twitter every day, hoping to hear someone's political opinions.
Let me tell you your hot take. I don't care about your hot take. You got the veterans are the worst at this, man. You get these dudes, they'll get in their truck, and here's what they do, right? Here's what they do. This is them. They start pointing at the camera. I'm gonna tell you why this country's screwed up, you little snowflakes. Those guys can take a long walk off a short pier, my friend.
I wish I had my sunglasses near, because I've got some Oakleys that are very fuckboyish. That
why do you get that much enjoyment out of being mad? That's I got off on this tangent because a fan was like, do you really like a movie, or do you like Final Fantasy, or do you like Star Wars? If all you do is get mad about it, are you a fan anymore at that point?
No, I think there are people that try to be fans, but they want to be the top fan. They're like, oh, well, my opinion is going to get out there, and that's what's going to fix this franchise. Like, no, dude, nobody knows who the fuck you are. Nobody gives a shit about what you have to say. Like,
Wrestling fans are like that, too.
Yeah,
Video
100%.
game fans are real bad.
Like, if the WWE would just listen to me and while I'm booking from my couch, then I could make them billions. But nobody knows who you are. Vince McMahon is laughing all the way to the bank.
The Final Fantasy remake, the 7 remake, is a great example, right? Because had they done just a perfect, every system all the game systems were the same, the combat was the same, and it was just, prettied up graphics, well, everybody's already played that game before. Who gives a shit, right? But the super fans are the purists, is what they love to call themselves. They get in there and they scream about it, and it's like, no, man, this is a new game. Enjoy it for what it is.
And
it's a nostalgic look. It's something you loved when you were a kid. Just enjoy it. And, well, they should have done this, and I'm not going to buy this game. Like, I'm sure they're crying and wiping their tears with $100 bills right now. Like,
bro. oh Lord, Josh from Kentucky is not going to buy the game. Whatever shall we do? Because the entire state of New York will. So.
Yeah, we got $100 million in the bank since released. Like, we're really sad about what Josh from Kentucky. I like how we're picking on Kentucky.
I liked that about the Final Fantasy VII Remake, because it wasn't the same exact game.
Different.
Like, I never played the first game, but luckily all of my gameplay was right here on Twitch. So I had people in my chat that were like, oh, hey, that's different from the original. Also, you can do this, this, and this here and get this different. And like they kind of like as we went, I was told like, hey, you know, they added this. This wasn't in the original game. They added it for this reason, and they did this. And then after I finished it, I went back and I watched several YouTube videos explaining the differences between the games and possibly like theories on why they did it and like why this is this way. Like having, you know, Zack still alive at the end instead of having him die in that fucking fight, or having the little Dementor looking things that weren't in the original game. Like there was so much that they added, and I that while it pissed a lot of people off, I think it also like the actual fans of the games were like, yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, I like that. Thanks.
It's a new game. It's a new take on something they already loved. Like if it was exactly the same except for updated graphics, then all the super fans would just be complaining about, oh, you're just grabbing. This is a cash grab.
Then it's just Skyrim.
Right.
They've been re-releasing the same game every 2 years for the last 9 years. Like, hey,
I cannot wait.
There's a new platform out. Here's Skyrim.
The new Star Wars game. We were just talking about it.
Oh, Squadrons?
Yeah, Squadrons and the new flight simulator. Like, stay tuned, dude. I'm going to be flying a 747 into a tropical storm live on the internet.
Into the side of a mountain. So man, with as much of like an aviation nerd as you are, why did you never get into aviation? Like what you got into software and IT and never really went aviation. So why is that?
I do aviation for fun. I fly. I've got my pilot certificate. I've taken trips in like the Cessna and the Cherokee that my club has, you know, down to the coast with my family. The reason is because I made the mistake once of getting into something that I loved as a career, computers, and it's made me hate computers.
So, you know, they say, you know,
yeah. And also the pay sucks, man. Like being an airline pilot, until you've been doing it for a long time, it does not pay all that well. I would much rather make what I make now as a software engineer and then go rent the Cessna and.
I don't even mean like airline pilot, but you know, I know there are a lot of people looking for like not a lot of people, but people looking for like private pilots and chartering private flights, stuff like that. Like, there's got to be some sort of calling for that.
The 121 world.
And there went the internet. Finally lost it. Let's see if we can get him reconnected here.
I think I lost you.
Yeah, you lost me for a second. We're back.
Bummer.
We are back. Can you hear me? Fitz! Turn the volume up. Now he's frozen again. Yo, what up, Spade? How are you tonight? I can hear. I've got audio. Can we get him back? Can it be done? This week on Dragon Ball Z. Alright, there we go. Getting the call back.
Dude.
I knew it went out. Like I saw you just freeze up. I just thought. And I was like, yep, there it went.
Yeah, and now everything's working fine. I just rebooted my router.
Yeah. It's the damnedest thing.
Can you see me, hear me, everything?
Hey, give me 1 sec.
Sure.
I just got a fucking sales call at 9 o'clock at night.
Nice.
Who does that? Who fucking does that?
Well, hopefully, you've got me again.
Yeah, I've got you again. You're coming through loud and clear.
Weird.
We got it back.
Yeah. So, yeah, anyway, flight. I do it for fun. Not a lot of money in it.
Yeah.
But you know what we need to do at some point? We need to throw my GoPros into the airplane, and we need to take Party Viking up on a small airplane trip in a Cessna or a Cherokee.
100% we need to do that.
That would be a lot of fun.
Take the GoPros. I can bring my camera along and record and do a little IRL YouTube video flying in tiny ass little single prop.
Oh, Be awesome, dude. I'll my standard flight when I take people up that have never been up in one of those little ones before is we'll go out to Stephenville and go to Heart 8 in Stephenville because it's right next to the airport.
Hell yeah.
So we'll fly. We'll go get some barbecue on the way back. I'll hand you the controls and let you do some stuff.
Tailspin directly into the ground. Got it.
Please don't do that. But you'd be surprised. Flying is actually not super hard.
It's landing. That's the hard part.
It's landing, yeah, and learning what to do when things go wrong that most of the training is focused on. But the actual flying, that stuff's pretty easy.
Yeah, just keeping the pedals pretty even and not steering one way or the other too hard.
Yeah, you just point, and the like a Cessna 172, it practically flies itself.
Oh well. I mean that sounds great, but in my head it's also terrifying as fuck sounding.
Yeah. So I've had a couple of weird incidents while flying, and unfortunately one of them happened with my family in it, and the other one was with a guy who I was taking up for the first time. So we're coming back from Stephenville from Heart 8. I'm in a Cherokee 235, which is a big, it's the bigger version of the Cherokee, or bigger engine-wise anyway. So it's pretty quick. Got a big IO 540 or something in the front of it. And I mean, you can get that thing. If you get a good tailwind. At one point we were going 190 miles an hour over the ground because we had a good hefty tailwind from the back.
Yeah.
So we're coming back, and I always use what's called flight following, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're flying VFR and there's good weather, you don't have to talk to anybody on the radio. You don't have to communicate with air traffic control, but it's a good idea to do it.
So they know where you're at.
Yeah, and so they can tell you where other people are at, right? Like, that's the big benefit. You get on flight following, they'll tell you, hey, you got another airplane coming this way. It's at your 1 o'clock in 2 miles or whatever, so you can start looking for them.
Yeah.
So we're cruising along. ATC has like very specific phrases that they use, and their terminology is very concrete for a reason. Now, one of the things you learn is that when ATC says immediately, like, that's what they mean.
Immediately.
Yeah, like expedite means, hey, you need to hurry up and do this. Immediately means some really awful stuff is about to happen.
Do it the fuck now.
So we're cruising along. We see this RV-10 or RV-8, some van's fast little airplane coming this way. And he flies by us, plenty of clearance, no big deal. Didn't think anything of it. And we're cruising along. I'm about 20 minutes from flying over Alliance and landing at Northwest Regional. And I'm on with the controllers, and they're like 29 whiskey, descend and turn right immediately, right? And at that point, it's like almost reflex training and stuff. So I pull the power, I crank the airplane over to about a 45-degree bank, and I push the nose down, and I'm just going like this. And right as soon as I do that, I look over out my left window, and I see that RV who had turned direction at some point. He wasn't talking to ATC, and he decided he was just going to do his own thing in a 200-mile-an-hour airplane. And he comes zooming by, missed us by 100 feet, maybe.
Which, in the air, but like 100 feet on land, that's plenty of clearance. In the air, I imagine that's a little too close. I imagine you probably had to get down to the ground and check your shorts after that one.
Oh, it was terrifying. It took me 30 minutes to remove the seat. So we ended up landing and stuff, and my buddy who was with me, he was like, what just happened? And I realized, like, we hadn't talked about it, and you don't actually have to communicate with these guys when you're flying in visual conditions, and we almost got creamed because somebody was being an idiot. This other time, I went down to Galveston for the weekend with the family, and you want to be super dad, by the way.
Of course.
Take your kid to the beach.
In a plane?
And do it in an airplane. Yeah. Like, a couple hours, you're on the coast. And so we're coming back. We got stuck there a few days for bad weather, fog and clouds and stuff. So, oh no, we're stuck at the beach.
Oh no, you got to stay at the beach a couple more days.
Yeah.
The tragedy.
Yep. So we're coming back, and there's a checklist for everything, man. And this is where it really starts to make sense and why the checklists are put together the way they are. So if you have an engine failure, right, what are the causes potentially? You could have bad fuel. You could have no fuel in that tank. Your fuel pump could go out. You could have an electrical problem, whatever, these various things. Although the electrical systems are redundant, they use magnetos, so that's rare. So I never really thought about these checklists until this happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cruising along in this Cherokee 235 that has 4 tanks. It's got 2 inboard big tanks and 2 smaller ones on the tips.
Yep.
And we went somewhere with really cheap fuel. So I loaded everything up, and my plan was to drain the tip tanks, and that way by the time I got back to the Fort Worth area, I'd be on my mains and I wouldn't have to top them off very much.
Yeah.
So I'm cruising along. I did all the math to figure out how much fuel I had, time-wise in each tank. And I'm flying along. Everything's going great. And suddenly there's a little bit of a sputter. We're at about 6,500 feet. And there's a little sputter. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then the engine dies. And the prop stops. And I'm like, oh, God. Like the quietest sound in the world, or the loudest sound in the world, by the way.
Silence.
The loudest sound in the world is silence when you're in an airplane you're expecting noise from.
Yeah.
And
like, wait,
being a Cherokee,
I can hear myself think again. We're fucked.
being a Cherokee, too, once they're under no power, they fly roughly like a brick. They fly like this. And so, the checklist says, first thing you do is you identify a suitable landing spot and you point towards it, right? And get to best glide. So you get to best glide speed, point towards the landing spot. I picked out this big wide field with a big wide empty country highway next to it.
Yeah.
That was my plan. I'm going to put it down there. And this type of stuff, especially when you're in a plane like that, a light plane that's not very large, it's super survivable. We would have been fine. But we would have landed, and I don't think anybody would have been hurt. The airplane would have been fine too. But it's still scary.
We took it a barn, but we're fine.
Well, I mean, we had plenty of room. All kinds of places. So I point there, and then I go through the checklist, right? The first thing you do on the checklist is switch your tanks to a different fuel tank and turn on the electric fuel pump. So the theory is that if you've got bad fuel or if your mechanical fuel pump gave out, you're taking care of both those birds with one stone, right?
Yeah.
And try to restart it. So I flip tanks, turn on the fuel pump, restarted the engine. It comes back to life. Because it's a Cherokee and they fly like a brick, in that short amount of time, we lost 1,000 feet of altitude.
Yoicks.
And so everything starts back up, and I get leveled back off, and I go back to my altitude that I had. And I'm trying to, at this point, I'm like, what just happened? And then it hits me as I'm looking at my knee board with my fuel calculations. I did my math wrong. I ran out of fuel 15 minutes earlier in that tank than I expected to. I was about to switch tanks. Anyway. I was 2 minutes away from when I was going to switch tanks. And I ran out of fuel. So I got everything figured out. Of course, Brooklyn's in the back watching a movie on her iPad or something. I look back there. She didn't even know anything happened. She's totally oblivious. I look over at my wife, and she had not said a word, but all I see is she has this white-knuckled grip on the armrest. Absolutely, holding on for dear life.
All she was thinking was, get me the fuck out of this plane.
So I was like, are you okay? She's like,
Again, had to check the shorts.
oh, terrible, man. So, she's like, I figured whatever it was, you had it under control. All right, cool.
I'm glad she had faith in you, though. It wasn't like you got back and she was like, God, I'm glad we got lucky.
I'm serious about my hobbies. I'm serious about safety, right? My wife will tell you, dude, if anything about that day of flying isn't exactly within what I call my personal minimums, these are the conditions where if they're any worse than this, I will not fly, no matter what.
Little too windy or a little too foggy. Nope, not going that day.
And you write them down. The reason you write them down is because if they're written down, you're not tempted to be like, well, I'll probably be fine. Actually, my rule, I have what I call my basic safety rule.
Uh-huh.
If at any point in the pre-flight planning, takeoff, climbing to altitude, getting pointed towards my destination, whatever the case may be, if at any point I catch myself thinking, I wonder, if there's any doubt that enters my mind, my rule is the flight's over.
Yeah.
So, and I've had days where we were going to go have lunch one day, and Brooklyn was in school. We had a day that we were just going to take the airplane and go have food somewhere and enjoy the day and have a little husband-wife airplane trip somewhere. And we got up and we turned crosswind, and I'm looking at the clouds, and I'm like, man, I do not like the way those clouds look. I wonder, and like I said, man, as soon as I had that thought, I got back on CTAF. I was like, I forget what airplane I was in, so I don't remember what my call sign was. But I'm like, we're gonna do one circuit and land. And so we ended up doing just one trip around the pattern, came back in, land, parked the airplane. Like all that preparation, and the flight was 15 minutes long.
Yeah.
And as soon as I parked the airplane and put it away, man, that's when the pop-up like thunderstorm out of nowhere started happening.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So that day, your gut feeling there was correct.
Absolutely, man. And thunderstorms, dude, are scary. Even when you're not in one, man. Like those little airplanes, it's aluminum, right?
Yeah.
They can tear an airplane apart, even if you're not super close to them. I remember one night we were supposed to do my night cross country while I was in training, because you have to do one cross country trip during the nighttime as part of your requirements. And we get to the airport, and in every direction, 15 to 20 miles out, there's thunderstorms. And so we're like, well, we're not doing the cross country tonight. And my instructor was like, no, we're not. But we're going to do a couple of landings because this is a good learning opportunity. And so we did a couple of, we were at Addison, and they usually don't let you do like touch and goes in the pattern. But since nobody's flying that night, they were fine with it. So we get up there. And dude, the turbulence was crazy. Like, thunderstorms are just convective activity, right?
Yeah.
Moving in big giant circles way up into the sky. And just the turbulence was gnarly. Every one of my landings was absolute garbage. On the last one, where I finally looked over, we were supposed to do 2 or 3 more. I looked over, I said, we're done. Because we're coming in for a landing, and we get wind shear. And my instructor immediately says, my airplane, and he full throttle, right? Trying to keep up, because if you got a bunch of wind shear or a big gust of tailwind all of a sudden, right? Like that's bad. You can fall out of the sky.
It takes away your pull forward and just.
Like I watch the airspeed needle go like this, and he points the nose a little down and just full throttles it. And we get back to the runway, and I looked over at him. I was like, "We are done, bro." So we finished, and he's like, "What did you learn tonight?"
How tightly I can clench my ass cheeks.
Yeah, don't fly when there's bad weather around.
Yeah,
Number one killer of private pilots, dude, is flying in weather they shouldn't be.
Dude, I've flown in. I've flown quite a bit in my life, just on the commercial airliners, and that I've flown back into Dallas several times during like really bad thunderstorms, and every time I see that cloud coming, I'm not nervous on flights. I've been on enough planes that at this point in my life, I'm just like, yeah, cool, we're flying, whatever. Like I always get sat next. It's my luck that I always get sat next to the person that's like, this is like their 3rd flight in their 40 years of life, and meanwhile this is like my 5th flight in the this year, and I'm just like, yep, cool, let's rock. So there's a little bit of turbulence on the way up. I'm chilling. They're gripping the armrests like they're about to fall out of their seat, but. Coming into Dallas or coming into any airport really, and just seeing that big like fuck you of a thunderstorm is like, whew.
Yep.
There was one flight, my last flight back to Dallas actually, or no, not my last flight. One of my last flights back to Dallas, super early in the morning. Like I think I landed at like 3 a.m. They actually had to reroute and go around Dallas and approach DFW from the south. Or no, they had to approach it from the east because we were flying from Phoenix, and so they had to go around like back over towards Love Field and come in from the east to just dodge this huge thunderstorm. And even when we were coming in, like we were flying through clouds that looking out the window, I couldn't see from me to my camera outside. Yep. Like, and so that
else is real dangerous. People relying on technology, man. So the big airplanes, the expensive airplanes, they have like weather radar, right? And that's real time. Like. What you're seeing is what you're getting.
Yeah.
And so that's why those airplanes, when you're on a commercial flight, you can thread, they can thread their way through weather systems and get to where they're going. Not a big deal. Well, some of these guys have like NexRad or like XM weather on board.
Yeah.
And they think because they got this big cool display of like weather radar that, oh, that's cool. I can do what the big airplanes do and thread my way through a system of thunderstorms instead of doing what I should do and land and wait it out.
I've had to
stop. Like I've had to stop in Waco and just chill for 7 hours waiting for weather to get better.
Wait, did you stop at was it Waco Regional or was it the one out in McGregor, the private one?
Waco Regional.
Oh, whew, I'm sorry.
I don't remember what it's called, but actually they have a really nice pilot's lounge. We watch movies there.
It's Waco Regional Airport.
So we're that's what I do. Like, if there's bad weather, I'm stopping. We're hanging out. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I've stopped in Georgetown. We're going to go visit Grandma because I'm not flying through this garbage that pops. Because Texas, man, it pops up out of nowhere.
I was the same way when I still had my motorcycles. I am 100% opposed to riding in any sort of inclement weather. Rain sucks. Rain hurts.
Yeah.
Getting hit with rain, with raindrops is fine if you're standing out in it, but when you're doing 70 miles an hour towards it, it's like little ice needles stabbing you in the chest. And so anytime...
Plus, if you're wet and you're uncomfortable and you're cold and you're miserable, what is happening to your attention span?
It's gone out the window because I'm probably just bitching about how cold and uncomfortable I am. But, anytime we would start to see rain...
Like little rain showers, yeah, I fly through that. That's okay. The rule that I heard from my instructor was if you could see through the rainstorm to the other side, you're okay. As long as there's no big giant thundercloud associated with it, it's just a regular rainstorm.
Yeah, and that's how
these dudes, this radar, it's a 15-minute delay for the stuff that's in small airplanes. So this guy will think he's being smart and he's threading his way through thunderstorms, and in reality, he's flying right into one. And you go into one of those in a Cherokee or a Cessna or whatever, it's going to tear your wing off.
Yeah. You're not just done for the day. You're probably done flying. Period.
My instructor, who, by the way, Brandon Meso, if you ever want to learn to fly, he's very, very procedure and safety oriented. He's the perfect instructor. But he was big on before he would sign me off to solo. He made me go listen to AOPA's like accident case summaries, which often include the air traffic audio from somebody who's realizing that they have just made a fatal decision. Like guy taking his daughter back to college in his Bonanza, and he gets into clouds and into bad weather when he's not instrument rated, and the last thing you hear from him is, "I'm going to try to descend, get under this," and then nothing. So yeah, but I geek out about everything, man. Whether it's video games or air, I might not be a professional pilot, but when I do it, I treat it that way. I treat it like a profession.
Your attention to safety stuff like that and safety measures and actually going through procedure and stuff like that, was that something that you did prior to the military, or was it kind of maybe the military that kind of instilled that in you, that everything you do 100% correct? Or is that
I think it was definitely a lot of that came from the military, because you see when you're in the military, especially when you're in the infantry and you've been to combat, you see how bad decisions or incompetence or inattention or just not paying attention that day can kill. Not being aware of your surroundings. Like, man, we got hit one time coming down Route Irish. No, not Route Irish. It was south of Baghdad, so it would have been Tampa. We're coming down this route, and every time we go through here, man, there's kids out on the road trying to get us to give them, Gatorades and candy and food and stuff. And we're driving along, and there's no kids out today. And right as I'm turning to my gunner, telling him we're about to get hit, we got hit. So that kind of attention to detail and noticing when something just isn't quite right.
Yeah.
Is super important when you're flying, and it's one of the reasons that I don't fly unless everything's perfect. It's a motorcycle, same way, dude. I don't go out and ride my motorcycle when it's going to be a miserable experience to do it. And same thing with flying. I'm not being paid to fly. I'm paying to fly. So I'm not going to go out and fly and pay $60-$70 an hour for plane plus fuel if it's turbulent and the weather's bad and it's a miserable experience. I want that perfect, cool, crisp morning.
As a hobby, you want it to be something that you enjoy doing, not something that by the time you get out and get done, you're shaking because your nerves are going and your adrenaline's pumping, because you were almost killed from your hobby. You want it to be an enjoyable experience, and that's 100% understandable. I wouldn't, unless you're just one of those adrenaline junkies. I'm gonna fucking do it. You're stupid. That's just dumb.
Aviation's the wrong place to be an adrenaline.
Yeah.
For sure.
Moving on from that, let's go a little bit back to the video games and stuff like that. So you played all the Final Fantasy games. You also mentioned Legend of Zelda earlier.
Yeah.
That the neighbor lady got you into. How far up did your Zelda experience go?
So the original, I played a little bit, but I had to be careful about that because my mom thought it was evil or something, right? Because there's magic. Right? So
you had one of those
and
moms.
Later on, she actually is the one that bought Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo, so she changed her mind real quick, right? But so the original I played some, but I had to be real like down low about it. I played 2. You remember 2, where the side scroller for a bunch of it?
Yeah.
And it was brutally hard. And I was just a kid. That game was so freaking hard. I had bad dreams about that game. I would wake up in a nightmare in a cold sweat. He got me again. Like, the worst.
No, Ganon, not now.
Link to the Past was one of my favorites. Loved that game. That one holds up, man. That's a good one to emulate because it really does hold up well.
Did you make it to the N64 playing Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask?
Yes, and I still think Ocarina of Time, I think, is one of the best ones they've ever done.
Oh, to me, I feel hands down. I believe that Ocarina of Time is the best Legend of Zelda game, even considering how good Breath of the Wild was. Because Breath of the Wild is a fantastic game, and I really cannot wait for the second one.
Wow.
Oh, the second one comes out this year, later this year, actually.
Has it. My kid has it on her Switch. I haven't played it yet. I did play the remake of Link's Awakening though a bunch.
I'm sorry.
That's good. I like it.
No, Ocarina of Time. My favorite story to tell about Ocarina of Time is how I had the most valuable version of the game. I had the gold cartridge collector's edition, and ended up giving it away to a kid in South Carolina when my mom still lived there. I gave it to him. He borrowed it from me, and I was like, cool. I'll just go get it back the next time I go to South Carolina. Between then, my mom moved back to Texas, and I never saw that kid again in my life. So I lost my copy of Ocarina of Time for the N64 with the gold cartridge that today is worth some serious cash. And even now, like I don't want it to sell it. I want it because I had it. I had it in my hands, literally in my possession. Yeah. And at the time, I just didn't appreciate that game because at the time I was like 10. Probably 10 years old, somewhere in there, 8 to 10, because that was late 90s, early 2000s. So yeah, I would have been real young, and I didn't really appreciate
I like that game a lot, man. It was great.
I bought the Nintendo 3DS solely to play Ocarina of Time. Whenever they remade it in 3D,
they put that on there.
Yep, they did it in Majora's Mask, and I wasn't a fan of Majora's Mask. And I think it's just because of the time that I played it, I didn't understand how to fucking get past the 3-day shit.
Yeah, the time aspect of it was kind of weird. I liked what was the one on GameCube?
That was Wind Waker.
No, there was another one. Yeah, that one was cool too. The cell shaded art style was kind of neat. But
talking about you're thinking of Twilight Princess.
Yeah, that was on GameCube.
It was
right?
It was GameCube and Wii.
Wii, yeah.
Because that was the first. Fun fact. The Wii version of that game was the very first time in any Legend of Zelda game where Link is right-handed.
Oh, yeah, because of the motion controls.
Yep.
They had to switch it. Yeah.
Because most people are right-handed. In every other iteration of the game, Link has always been left-handed.
That's right. Yeah, that one was, by the way, another thing you don't want to Google when you have children.
Is Legend of Zelda?
Anything related to Midna specifically.
Oh, yeah.
Don't Google Midna.
I've seen a lot of the Midna stuff. I've stumbled across that in because I use iFunny as an app all the time, and in the so I stay on the featured section of iFunny because if you journey into collective or collections, it gets real fucking weird.
It's real weird.
Yeah, and that's where I found I saw the Midna artwork, for lack of a better term.
And remember when back in the old days, the original Legend of Zelda, the internet, of course, you couldn't just go look for solutions, right? So you get the big, thick strategy guide, right? And it would have all this, artwork, Impa was sitting there. She's this old, craggy lady that's, talking to Link, and she doesn't actually show up in the game.
Nope.
And then they had that terrible, terrible, god-awful cartoon. Remember?
I try not to.
Link was like a teenage smartass.
Yeah, and he talked.
Excuse me, princess.
Yeah, and he talks. Which just completely ruins all of the mythos of Link, because in none of the games, not any of the canon games, he never talks.
They took a lot of flack for that when
they should have.
Voices in games were starting to be a thing. Nintendo took a lot of flack for having Link remain silent, and some of the guys working on the game were like, "This brings you into the character. You are the character."
Yeah, and
Link starts talking, you're not him anymore.
Yeah, that's one thing I loved about it is the fact that Nintendo stayed true to that character throughout all the years, and we're like, yeah, we can make him talk, but we're not gonna. Richard, hey Tyler and Big Fitz, hope you guys are doing good. Miss you guys in the ring. I will be at MPX tomorrow. I won't, but we miss you as well.
Have fun. It's going to be a good show, I think.
Yeah, no, from what I've seen of it, it looks like it's going to be a pretty solid top to bottom card.
So, Zelda, one more thing I want to ask you about.
Okay.
Water temple.
Fuck the water temple.
Bad idea or worst idea?
So, the water temple is a fantastic idea, executed poorly. I loved it because it added a degree of difficulty that even having the strategy guide, it was still hard as shit.
Yeah.
And then in the remake, when they brought it out on the 3DS, they had what's called Master Mode. And Master Mode changes the whole fucking thing.
Nice.
It redoes and redesigns. They redesigned every dungeon for Master Mode, so you have to go through all of these dungeons that you've never done before. And the Master Mode water dungeon, or the water temple, way fucking harder.
Yeah.
They were like, you know what?
Every game that has a water temple, it seems to be just a slog. Like even Link to the Past, like, oh, I can't go down here because I have to lower the water level. Well, now I got to raise it and swim across this thing. It's the absolute
Yeah, no,
worst.
it was a nightmare the first time playing through. So, I know we're running a little bit long. There's one more story I want you to tell
Okay.
before we go. And it's one of the stories that you told me whenever we built my computer of your
Okay.
time in Iraq.
Oh no.
I would like to hear the grenade story.
Oh man.
I want the people in chat to hear the tale of your manly endeavors and your vicious war cry.
I don't want to tell that story. I really don't. You know what I will tell though? Did I tell you the story about how I got my nickname Shitzer?
Yeah, you did.
Right. So this is God, I can't believe this. So we were out on the road one time, and up to this point, a lot of stuff didn't happen south of a little place called Scania. It was pretty pacified. There wasn't much going on. So usually you get south of there, and that's when you'd start to relax a little bit. Guys would take their helmet off, chill out a little bit. And we're cruising along south of Scania. And this was actually where we're like, no, there's no kids out here, right?
Yeah.
And we're driving along, and suddenly, like, next thing I know, like, my ear is ringing, everything's crazy. Like, I can't hear anything. My gunner's bleeding. Like, he had smashed his face. So this IED goes off, and it hits the truck. And my gunner's up there, and of course the turrets at the time were surrounded by what we call Pope glass. And that's just big armored glass that comes up to kind of protect them on three sides. And it's funny how, like, all this stuff that becomes a thing in the military, these big, important safety things, it always comes from some guy sitting around in a motor pool somewhere, bored, thinking, the story goes that there's this dude down in Kuwait. He's working on one of these places where they do overhauls on Humvees and kind of recon them and send them back up.
Yeah.
And they had sent this guy way too many of the armored windshields. The windshields of the Humvees were this big, thick ballistic glass. So they sent way too many. This guy has like a warehouse full of these things. And he's sitting there one day, and he had heard something about how, like, gunners were getting shredded because when you're in the turret, it's only coming up to about your armpits.
Yeah, and so
Gunners were
you're
getting
kind of poking out the top there and exposed.
Okay. So this guy's sitting there, and he's hearing about that, and he's looking at these piles of extra ballistic windows. He's looking at that, and he notices that they're exactly the same width as the side of the turret, right? So he welds up angle iron, bolts in 3 of these ballistic glass, one on each of the 3 sides that the gun's not pointed out, and says, "Hey, sir, come look at this." And then, like, next thing you knew, every Humvee in Iraq was getting outfitted with this stuff. So we're cruising along, so we get hit by this thing, and my gunner, he's the only guy I know that has a Purple Heart for a bloody nose, right? Because he's sitting up there, and the truck gets rocked, and he just, like, his face just smashes into that glass, and just, bloody face print on the tin glass. And so the truck comes to a stop. It was a pressure plate, I think, which is why we didn't have a trigger man. There's nobody sitting there with a button. This thing's automatic. So I can't get the truck to shift. The engine's still running. Little did I know that the transmission was all blown to hell. There's metal all throughout the transmission. And truck's all messed up. There's like, glass shattered, front end of the truck all messed up. And my convoy commander gets on and he's like, I want to, do we need a wrecker? Are you guys okay? And so I'm like sitting here trying to talk to my gunner, who is not responding at this point. I found out later that it was because his intercom, his headset just stopped working. So he's up there looking around, trying to, make sure that nobody's coming for us. And he's not hearing me ask him if he's okay. So I grab him and drag him down because I'm not getting a response. So I get on the radio and I'm trying to give this dude a PDA. I'm like, yeah, the truck is all messed up. We're going to need a wrecker. Smiley's bleeding, but he's okay. I can't hear a damn thing. It doesn't look like there's a trigger man. There's not going to be any secondaries. It looks like we're kind of looking for secondary devices. We're looking for people that are about to ambush, whatever. And right about then, I'm feeling something kind of soft and squishy and warm in my pants. I'm like, oh no. And I said, yeah, I pooped myself. And I didn't say shit. I don't know why. I pooped myself. That's what I said. And right about then, I hear from up above. I need to back up a second. So there's something called the sheriff's net, and it's a radio frequency that was used for communication between units and the entire area, that whole southern part of Iraq. And there was this airplane called Sheriff 1-4, I think. This airplane on big AWACS that would basically relay signals to everywhere, right? Yeah. And so when you needed something, you called these guys, and your stuff could get rebroadcast and all this other stuff. And so this thing's floating around. We had two radios. One on the top was tuned to Sheriff's Net, and it was tuned to a long-range antenna. The other one had a power amp. The other one was not. It didn't have a power amp, but it was just our internal company frequency. And so I get on there and I'm like, yeah, I think I pooped a little, and all of a sudden I hear somebody key up a mic, and in the background I hear this massive airplane engine. And it's like, Dingo 26, the Sheriff 1-4, can you say again? Right then I realized, I told the wrong people. I thought I was on my internal channel, and here I am talking to all of southern Iraq. So I'm going to poop myself. And my platoon sergeant gets on the radio on our frequency. He's like, that's right, dumbass, you just told the whole country you shit yourself. And so we end up getting a wrecker to tow our shit back to Scania, and one of our other platoons was in there, and my buddy Fitz, he was the kind of guy who would just make fun of you relentlessly and ruthlessly for things like that. So I just walked up to him. I was like, go ahead, man, just get it out of your system, make fun of me, whatever. And he just looks at me, and he gets this really sad, kind of defeated look on his face, and he goes, I can't make fun of you, man. Somebody just tried to kill you. And so, I think the next day, platoon sergeant's, talking about the assignments for the day. He's like, shit, sir, you're on the second convoy of the day or whatever. So that was my nickname.
You got stuck with Shitzer.
Yeah, and then one of my other guys in the platoon got the name of Poopadel, because his name was Poopadel. He was Dutch or something, right? And he got named Poopadel because he ate the Turkish food while we were on convoy.
Oof.
Ended up getting diarrhea in the middle of Iraq.
Okay, man, I've had the shits in bad places, but never as bad as the middle of Iraq.
This dude ate some bad food. We had to stop the damn. We had to stop the truck so he could run down the back of the truck and lean against the Humvee, and he barely got his pants down.
Was he braced on the bumper for support?
He was basically so on the back of the Humvee there's a big full-size spare tire.
Yeah.
Right? So this dude, he runs down, because we had the Humvees, they had this we called it a turtleback. It was a sloping rear door, like a hatchback. And so this dude, let me see if I can show you what he was doing. Yeah. So he runs down the back of the Humvee. We hear his feet clodding down the roof, and he just gets up against that. Oh. That was the worst.
Aside from the shitty living conditions and getting shot at and blown up all the time, the military doesn't sound too bad.
Oh man, it sucks.
Aside from all the shitty parts, it sounds kind of funny.
Yeah, dude. Well, it had its purpose, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be out, though. I'm way too old and
Yeah.
cranky to be in the military.
You come out like what's his name from Full Metal Jacket?
Yeah, dude. I'll tell you what. I was just having a conversation because military guys, when they're talking to civilians, they tend to pretty it up. They tend to church it up some and make it sound way cooler than it is. And I got out of the military because the military got super toxic. It still is. The problem was we were running 2 wars at the same time.
Yeah.
And so they lowered their recruiting standards just to get breathing, heartbeat people in there. And then 5-6 years later, those people are getting promoted. They're in charge of things, which is terrible. So I get out because I was just frustrated and done. I got out of 17 years, man. I only had a few more years to retirement. I got out of 17 years. I'm at a Bible study thing and talking to another guy who was in. And I made some comment about the military just being a bottomless cesspool of toxic leadership and garbage now. And he's like, no, man, that ain't how it is. And I just kind of, I'm sitting there listening to him, and I'm looking like this. I'm like, really? We don't have to play here, dude. I was in too. And he just kind of goes, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was that bad, yeah. All right, man. Well, to wrap things up, I want to hear your favorite wrestling match you've ever had, your least favorite wrestling match you've ever had, and where can we find you on social media?
Well, I just have the Big Fitz Facebook page. It's a like page.
Okay.
I got rid of Twitter. I got rid of all that other stuff. But you can catch me there. If I decide to wrestle again, that'll be where you can find me. Favorite wrestling match?
And why? Why? Like, I need some elaboration on why it was your favorite and least favorite.
So I got a tie for favorite. And the first one is I did a tag match with Kirby against Larger Than Life.
I remember that.
And that was one of my favorite ones for a couple of reasons. The first is that Ryan and Tommy are absolutely 2 of the most talented guys in the business today. Period.
Oh, absolutely. I've always had a lot of fun wrestling them.
You can't wrestle a match with them and not look great. We lost and still looked amazing because they are that good. And Kirby, of course, same thing. He's just that damn good. It was a really fun match. We had a great time with those guys. Getting to work with 2 guys who I believe are pretty close to the pinnacle of skill in independent wrestling, and the trainer responsible not only for them but for some other really, really great people. Yeah. Kirby's a fantastic trainer and a fantastic wrestler.
100%.
He's I've even had people that don't like him tell me, like, man, he's one of the low-key the best people in Texas.
He may not. He's one of those people. He may not be like athletically like superhuman. Like, he's not one of the guys that's going to do a bunch of like crazy flips and super fancy stuff, but the guy has just such a great mind for how to put together a good match. Like, he knows, like, he knows what he can and can't do, and he knows his psychology. Like,
he's the Zach Wilde of wrestling. Zach Wilde does nothing but play the pentatonic scale, but he is the absolute best at it.
Pinch harmonics, that's all Zach Wilde did.
And so for that was one of the 2 favorites that I had, because I was surrounded by talent that made me look great, made each other look great.
Yeah.
I got to take their finisher. It looked awesome. I got to give my Sidewinder to Tommy, who he posts so damn well that I got 2 full rotations off of that.
Oh, yeah, no. Tommy is one of my favorite people to be in the ring with. There are 2 people at MPX that I feel like every time I've been in the ring with them, I've always had a lot of fun, and we've always put on a good match, and it's Tommy and Tatum. I don't know what it is about Tatum, but me and him just together have such good in-ring chemistry that every time we work with each other, it's like everything just fires correctly and it just goes well. Same with Tommy.
Tatum is my favorite heel right now, dude, for a number of reasons. He's such a nice guy.
I love it to death. I love him as a person and as a wrestler.
Yeah. The other favorite match.
Oh, okay, that's right. You had 2 favorites. Sorry.
Yeah. So the other favorite match I had. God, this is hard. It would actually have to be my first match, the one I did at Time Warp with Kirby.
Oh, when you were Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, and I had only been training for 6 or 7 months at the time. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So Kirby's like, well, we think it'll be fun. Because the way that all started was Kirby, he always talks about how he hates the Time Warp show. but then like he'll find a reason to get excited about
It's
it.
always a lot of fun.
Yeah. But I think he's just tired of people like showing up and half-assing things, and you probably know some of the people that do that. But I did Hulk Hogan for a Halloween costume while I was in Seattle, and I sent a picture to Kirby, and he was like, "Oh my god," because I bleached my mustache, I had the whole thing going on. Right?
I remember seeing the pictures of it. I wasn't there in person, but I remember seeing the pictures of it, and I was like, "Yo, who the fuck is this?"
I'm gonna have to send you a link to that match Kirby says, "Well, go find a match that Hogan did that's simple and that was entertaining, and we'll just do that match. We'll do that match move for move, basically." So I start watching stuff, and I asked him if he was like interested in doing Boss Man, right? And he was like, "Yeah, that could be fun." And so I ran across a match. It was actually the inaugural episode of Nitro. Hogan and Boss Man, when he was doing the Bubba Rogers thing, he came out in like slacks and a regular shirt.
Yeah.
But I ran across that match. They didn't do a whole lot, and it was a lot of fun. It was entertaining. And I was like, that's it. That's the match. And he's like, well, I want to do real Boss Man. I was like, of course. So we actually had the opportunity, because we were doing a canned match. We're like at training for a couple of weeks prior. We ran through it, man.
Yeah.
And so that was great, because like it was my first match.
And
I got to go out there with, and Kirby, man, he will make you look like a hero anytime you're in the ring with him. And so we went out there and did the match. And the best part though, my favorite part, was when I'm slamming him into the turnbuckles. I stopped doing it to yell at the referee, and he keeps slamming his head on the turnbuckle. And I lost my my bandana at that point. Now everybody assumed that I had a normal blonde wig on, and that the bandana was tied over it to hide the fact that I didn't have the bald underneath, right?
Yeah.
But I had actually gotten a skullet wig and used toupee adhesive to put it on my head, so that gosh, I wish I could put a picture of it.
So it was stuck on there.
So it was glued on. I had a legit Hulk Hogan style skullet. And when my bandana came off, everybody lost their mind, started laughing. And my buddy Presley was Jimmy Hart. He came out. He had the crazy jacket, the mustache, the megaphone, everything. I bleached my mustache, which was one of the most painful things I've ever done in my life.
Like I keep bleaching my hair, but it burns like shit every time.
Imagine doing it on your lip, dude.
No, fuck that, dude.
It was absolutely one of the most fun things I've ever done in wrestling. I got to be one of my childhood heroes.
Yeah.
It was my first match. I came out. I got in the ring. I tore my shirt off. The crowd loved it. I had a lot of fun, and then Time Warp was fun for that reason, man. Like I want to do. Eventually, I want to do Stone Cold. Everybody wants me to do Big Show, but I'm not all about that life. Let's see, worst match. That's a tough one. What do you got going on over there?
Oh, my dog was choking on a bone. She's good now.
So, worst match. It was actually a pretty entertaining match, even though it was short. But it was, who was that? Omega? Remember him?
Yeah, I do.
So, I was going to say the one I had with Barrett, but that doesn't count as worst match, because even though I was a week out of sinus surgery and I was miserable, but that dude protected the hell out of me and put on a good show. So that doesn't really count as worst match. Oh, Omega was the worst match. So Kirby comes up. I hope he's not watching this. He's probably not.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Kirby comes up to me and he says, "Hey, you're going to go over on this match. You need to get in the ring and you need to figure out the finish, and whatever you're planning on finishing it with, make sure you can do it."
I was there that night. I was on this show because I remember seeing y'all try. You were trying to do your usual finish, and it was like way too big of a guy.
So there's big guys in indie wrestling who I can body slam Brent McKenzie all day.
Oh yeah, because
I can body slam Schaefer.
Oh yeah,
because they're number one. Schaefer and Brent both are deceptive when it comes to how well they can move.
Oh yeah, no, they're Schaefer. The entire time I've known Schaefer since about maybe a year into my career, so probably about 5 or 6 years now. And Schaefer's always been one of those guys where every time he does anything, I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
the dude's like 400 pounds. Like, how the fuck is he moving like that? What is going on?
him and Brent, man, they're both super strong. They have good body control, really great body control. And so, like, honestly, man, like, Brent McKenzie was one of the lightest body slams I've ever thrown. Just because he knows what the hell he's doing.
That's just because you never body slammed me.
This guy was not that guy. This guy was not.
The fucking sandbag.
I couldn't do my finish. I said, well, you know what? You're a big guy. It'd look impressive as hell if I did a body slam. Guess what? We're not doing a body slam. So I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm finishing it with a crossbody.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing about being my size, dude. Like, I can finish a match with a crossbody, and people will believe it. They'll buy into it.
Didn't he, like, fuck his knee up or something in that match? Like, he tried to do something off the rope?
The next week, he screwed his knee up.
Yeah, that's right.
But that day, he screwed my knee up.
That's right. Oh, yeah, because he landed on your knee or something weird.
Yeah, so the way this was supposed to go is we were going to kind of have this hope spot where he goes for a second rope or second buckle senton, and then I roll out of the way. I roll to the corner and get up and start doing some things.
And he slipped. Didn't he, like, slip on the ropes and landed directly on you?
And as I'm rolling is when he came down on my knee.
Oof.
All, 1,750 pounds, that dude came down on my knee. It hurt like hell. I legit thought I was going to have to finish it with a ground submission because I didn't know if I could get up and walk.
Oh, dude, that's
and
the
I didn't
worst.
want to pull a Kirby and just keep, because, like, I didn't want to hurt myself worse. So my knee is just on fire. I'm trying to come up to my feet. Like, all the limping and stuff that was happening.
Yeah.
That wasn't me selling, bro. That was all legit. And so I get up, and here's where I think I'm being sly, right? I'm just pissed off. I look over at the ref, and I'm going to tell him, like, we're going home now. We're done. We were like 3.5, 4 minutes in. We're done. We're going home. And so I go up to him, and I'm like, hey, we're going the fuck home. But in the heat of the moment and with the adrenaline pumping, you can hear it on the video. I grab the ref, I think it was Travis, and I look right at him, and I just scream, we're going the home. So, you know how when you do a crossbody, you're supposed to go up so they can, catch you and take their bump? Yeah, I leveled this dude, man. I launched myself into him with so much force, and he couldn't catch me. And so we did that, like, weird smack, and then he bumped, and I was still in the air, came down on top of him.
So you basically threw the world's stiffest crossbody at that point, then.
I launched myself into that dude as hard as I could. And then, so I finished up the match. We're like 4 minutes or whatever. Richard's like, dude, you're way early. I told him, I was like, this is what happened. And so the next week he comes there and he hurts himself. And
I think he was doing I think it was like the same thing. Like, he went for something off the ropes and just, like, it twisted and he fell again and just, like, fucked his own knee up.
Yeah, and he's back after he went through the curtain, he's sitting back there in the production area, and he's, like, wailing. And people out in the audience are like, what's going on back there? Like, thinking somebody's murdering a cow. That had to have been my worst match. I was so pissed off and disappointed about that. Because I'm like, I was finally going to win a match,
Yeah, and it's like, you want that first win to be like, yeah, like, it went well, and I won, and everyone was happy. But
the last one I had with Prince Adam, who I love that guy,
yeah,
so good. But the last one I had with Prince Adam was like, that's what I wanted out of that match with Omega. I wanted a match that just from top to bottom. Like, I went back there, it was like, I think that's the best match you've ever had.
Oh yeah, no, that I loved, I love Adam, and I loved all the stuff y'all did together. Like, it was always fantastic. The competing, like, heel face thing as a tag team was really entertaining to me because y'all pulled it off very well. Kind of like, what was it when Cesaro and Sheamus first started tagging?
Yeah.
It was Cesaro was this huge face and Sheamus was this huge heel. They got stuck together, and so it was this really weird. And doing stuff like that, it's so hard to put together a match, like, psychology-wise, because you're like, okay, well, the crowd's going to hate him, but they're going to love whenever this happens to this person. Like, it's so weird trying to create that, but I think y'all did a
fun dynamic.
Yeah, and y'all did a very good job putting that together, and I was like, y'all's matches were always very entertaining.
The tag match I did with him, that was actually really hard to put together, because if you think about it, like, try to put together a bad match on purpose.
Yeah.
Try to put together a match where, like, you're not working well together as a team, you're fighting, you're arguing, you're not in sync. Like, it's actually, especially when you're working with somebody as good as Adam.
Oh yeah.
Who, like, it had to have hurt for him to be bad on purpose, because that he's so dang talented, he's so good, and he's such a nice guy too. And like honestly, man, that counts for so much more in my book. I'd rather get in the ring with somebody who was middling, but was just easy to work with and fun, and was enjoying it, having a good time. There's guys, you know who they are. There's guys who are tremendously talented and skillful, but you can tell like they're not having fun anymore.
No, and it's that's a lot. So for the first 3.5-4 years of my career, I was solely a tag team wrestler, and I had my partner Taylor Jet, and we were the only touring tag team in Texas. We were the only team that actually traveled as a tag team and got booked at multiple promotions as a tag team. We were kind of like the Texas Young Bucks, just not as good. But that's actually why he got out of the business, because he started. One of the last times I talked to him about it, he was like, "Dude, I'm just not having fun anymore." He goes, "It started to feel more like a chore, and it's just like having to deal with all the politics and bullshit. Like I just don't enjoy it anymore, so I'm not going to do it." And I was like, I can't fault you for that. Like I'm mad because he was my fucking ticket to bookings, because he was the small flippy one that everyone loved to watch, and I was there because you technically need 2 people for a tag team. But but I was like, dude, I'm not gonna fault you. I'm not gonna give you shit about that. Like, if you're not having fun, there's no point putting your body on the line and putting your body through this much shit. Thank you. If you're not gonna enjoy it at the end of the day,
especially when it hurts so bad, man. Like wrestling sucks.
Yeah,
it hurts.
Dude, it fucking hurts. I've broken my nose twice and pulled my hamstring twice, and none of those have felt great. Especially having to walk back across a fucking. So one of the times I pulled my hamstring was at a Comic-Con, and after it happened, I had to walk like a quarter mile across the Comic-Con to get back to my truck to drive back to Waco from Weatherford, and it was the most painful experience of my life.
Man, the injuries, man, and when you're wrestling too, like you're never not injured.
No,
something is always at least low grade injury, right? Like I had bursitis in my elbow for 3 months because I kept wrestling. And I got back into the ring on Monday for the first time since my last match was in June, July, whatever, and got into the ring again for the first time I went to CWF's training in their Bible study out there. And Monday nights, Barrett Brown runs it. So you can imagine. So I go to training, and I come back, and I was like, I'm feeling pretty good, man. I'm feeling pretty loose. Not too bad. No big deal. I'm a little sore, but that's fine. And then the next day, I woke up, and I tried to get out of bed, and it didn't work well. I collapsed kind of into my dresser, and everything hurt. I was like, man, wrestling is stupid. And Kirby always says it takes a special type of idiot to enjoy this, because it hurts all the time.
He was 100% correct.
Yeah. I remember when Amanda was talking with him, she's like, I just don't know if I enjoy it well enough to be in pain all the time. But you could tell she felt bad about it. She felt like it was a failure. And Kirby was like, no, you don't understand. Like, you are a normal, intelligent person. People who actually like this are stupid. That's what
I tell people. Like, I call wrestlers idiots, and people are like, oh, they're not all of them are idiots. Like, dude, you're some type of idiot if your typical weekend involves you putting on spandex, pretending to fight your friends, and then waking up Sunday morning feeling like you've been hit by a fucking truck. Because most of the time, wrestling guys your size, you have been hit by a truck.
And the more excited you are about a match, the stupider you get, right? I remember there was one week where I was talking to Kirby, and I'm talking a big game about how, I'm only doing this for fun. It's a hobby. I don't have any career aspirations here. So I don't need to do dumb shit like go through tables. I don't need to do dumb shit like superplexes, right? So the birthday party that week, I let Kirby and Schaefer throw me through a table. Mm-hmm. And that was funny because as they were setting up the table to just bomb me through it, the leg broke. So they're like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? So they set it up in the corner. Kirby and Schaefer come and grab me, and Kirby leans in. He's like, sorry, bud, this is going to suck. And they peeled me into it. So I did the table, and then that very same week, I'm wrestling Brent McKenzie. And we're like, we gotta figure out something that you can kick out of that'll make you look strong, because I'm losing it. But Richard wanted it like, hey, Fitz is going to lose, but everybody, including Brent, should be surprised at how well the rookie did. Right, that was the whole story we're trying to tell. And so we get in there. I took both of his finishers. One of them I took twice because he couldn't land it the first time. That was actually a mistake, but we played it off like he just couldn't pick me up. So he hits me with a knockout punch. Not only did I not get destroyed off of that, but I stayed standing. Like, Brent put me over big time. He's like, no, I don't want you to bump on that. Stay standing. So we get to this one point where we want you to kick out of something huge, right? And immediately I'm like, superplex. And I'm like, what the fuck am I thinking? It's a stupid idea. Yeah, superplex. So we get in there. Bambi's the ref. He hooks me. And I had never done one before. So I'm in the wrong spot.
Oh.
I didn't have a lot of room to maneuver. I was too far. And so when he's like, I don't know how this is going to work. And he, like, as I'm hooked, he's like, I don't know if we can do this. I don't know how this is going to work. And I'm like, well, we're committed, dude. Go. And so we do this superplex. Now imagine me at 320-something pounds. Brent at the time, I think, was he was in the mid to high threes. It was before he lost a bunch of weight.
Yeah, he's like 375.
Yeah. And so all of that American beef hitting the ring at the same time.
700 pounds of man just landing on the ring at the same time.
Dude. And Bambi's reaction was, oh my god! And then we hit the ground, we hit the ring, and Bambi does this number, like he's just completely beside himself, got thrown in the air, and so he kicks out of it, and the camera zooms in, and he's doing the whole like, can't believe I just kicked out of that. And we finished the
Taker
match.
just lost the streak.
Yeah, and he does that classic big man put over at the end. Like, I'm laying in the ring dead because I just took his finisher again, and I'm laying there after he pins me and I'm dead, and he just kind of looks down and he does that big Brent McKenzie nod. Crazy.
Oh yeah.
Dude put me over like crazy, and it was such a fun match. But you're excited. Like, I'm like, man, we're big guys. We can do big guy things. I can actually take bumps. And I was so excited about it. Like, let's just do all the stupid shit.
Oh, I've definitely been there myself. But Fitz, where can everybody find you on social media? You said you got the Big Fitz Facebook page. I know you were talking about hitting the old Twitch whenever the new flight simulator comes out. So is this going to be the channel you do that from?
Yeah, that'll be the one. Fitz Happens 5150, and you can find it on Facebook at Big Fitz. I'm on Instagram at Big Fitz Fights as well. You can find me all those places. And like I said, once that new flight sim comes out, I will be doing ridiculous things in a 747 for fun.
Oh, I'll definitely be watching it, man. Well, Fitz, I really appreciate you stopping by. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your Friday night to sit down and talk and just bullshit with me like this. I know the people sitting at home watching that have been here for a while all appreciate it. Hold on. Fuck. But I'm gonna let you go. Yeah, right. I'm gonna let you go. Let you get back to your family. Let you go eat your dinner. Do whatever you were doing. So I appreciate you, man. I'll have this up on YouTube sometime this week or something like that. And I'll shoot it over to you. So until then, thank you, Fitz, and.
All right, man.